This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine master guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm Hal Blood, your host, and sitting here with me today by the fireplace is Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And we got Mike Stevens here today. He's filling in for Lee Libby because Lee's off in New Hampshire somewhere chasing a buck with his rifle because he's already shot his main buck. So Mike's going to try to fill Lee's boots, which he's done many times before.
I've chased his boots a few times. Yeah. Thanks for having me on here this morning, guys. I appreciate it. It's been a winter wonderland up here this year, and it tells some good deer stories. I think we're going to start out with Hal's big buck there, aren't we, Joe?
Yeah, it's the day after the end of the firearm season here in Maine. It's about the closest we've had to a live broadcast yet.
Yeah,
going on air tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been kind of a season that's kind of like the old days we remember back in the 90s and stuff, where we've had snow almost from the beginning to the end. We had a little spot in the middle there. It skipped for a few days, but it's been a snowy deer season, and we've seen lots of pictures posted on Facebook and people sending photos, but been a lot of really, really nice bucks in northern Maine shot this year. I mean, real nice racks, big heavy bucks, and I think it's just a product of, we've had some mild winters for quite a few years now, and the deer herd's built up really nice, and it's really showing, really nice bucks. So any of you that was successful this year, and wherever you were hunting, congratulations for that.
Yeah, we do pay attention to that stuff. We love to see the bucks that you folks kill out there, and we know there's a grand story to go with them, and we just like to see it. And I know that I paid attention to the count down at the local tagging station here in Jackman, and we usually run about 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 tagged would be a 200-pounder up in this country. Right now we're running, I believe, 1 out of 4 is coming in 200 for bucks.
I think it's more than that now, Mike.
Is it? Yeah, maybe it is. I haven't checked for a few days now.
Yeah, the other day they were up to 30 over 200, and I think when they were at 30 they had tagged like 96, and that's not counting the does.
Right.
I think it's 1 in 3 this year.
It could be.
It's unbelievable.
Saturday it was 1 in 4.
Yeah. I remember another year that it was between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5, but this is the highest percentage of bucks over 200 I've ever seen, and been hunting here for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Local Timmy Bent shot the biggest one, 268. 269. Oh, sorry to take that pound away, Tim.
Yeah. Of all guys, don't do that to Timmy.
You might get upset.
Yeah. I'm not telling him.
Yeah. 269.
Yeah, beautiful 10-pointer. It's going to make the Antler Club there. It's going to score in the 140s.
That one would be hard to beat during muzzleloader week after the rut.
Yeah.
I think he's pretty solid with that one.
Yeah.
But
so speaking of that, we had this bet about weight and horns and stuff between me and you and Lib. So you think you can beat me on the weight?
I don't know. Every day that goes by looks a little tougher, doesn't it?
Yeah. Once you get into muzzleloader season, although muzzleloader season's early this year, so this week is going to be more like it's when usually Thanksgiving week is.
Don't think I haven't thought of it every day that goes by. I figure they're losing 3 to 4 or 5 pounds a day. So
yeah, it's going to be hard to beat.
Good for you, Joe.
Yeah,
we'll see how that goes for you.
Yeah, you're probably.
No, I said the deer are.
Yeah, no, I know what you meant. I mean, to catch Hal and Lib, it's going to be tough.
Oh,
They keep losing weight.
It's going to be hard to beat Lib's horns too, ain't it?
Matt got by Hal with 1 pound, although he wasn't in the bet.
Yeah, that's right. I called him up that night and I said, would you have to do stuff a rock up his butt? Get me by a pound.
Don't give him any ideas around here.
Hey, been a fun season though.
It's been crazy. If you like to hunt in the snow, then this was your year, because I know during the second week there, the end of the second week, I was wading through over my waist. And I'm not a tall guy. But
I was going to say that's not saying a lot.
No, it's not. Not everybody.
It was up to Hal and I's shins.
Yeah. Yeah, he's sitting here with two guys 6'3", but yeah, it's been that kind of year, and it's just been, geez, the deer have been everywhere, crazy.
Yeah, they're still chasing the does. Actually, this year is really, it's too much snow. It kind of limits how many miles you can put on in a day, and it makes it a lot harder going. But I know a lot of times the guys, especially the young guys, geez, I hope we get a foot of snow, and I'm like, I hope we get 2 inches.
Yeah.
Because that's all you need at a time, just enough to keep a track fresh and stuff. It's harder to track in this stuff. The snow is falling in, especially if they get mixed in with other deer. So
it's harder to judge size. It's harder sometimes even direction. You got to take a minute to really look at it and figure out where he's going. And
but guess what? It's better than bare ground.
Absolutely.
How many times when we used to guide Hal, the guys would be we want snow. We used to tell them, be careful what you wish for sometimes. Yep. And then we'd end up with 2 feet and, geez, there's too much snow. The deer aren't here no more. So we always say, be careful. Like Hal says, 2-3 inches, and we're a lot more happier than 2 feet.
Yeah. You remember that time? I don't know. That was probably back in the late 90s. Remember we tried to go up Blake Gore that morning. I was pushing snow with a bumper up in there.
Yeah.
Couldn't get in. We just finally turned around and come out. It was pushing right over the bumper and stuff, the snow up in there. First week of the season. We're like, this is going to be bad. And by the end of the week, it was all gone to bare ground, I think.
That's right. It was, yeah.
Wow, that quick.
Yeah, it warmed up and it just...
50s, yeah.
Yeah, it warmed right up and it melted completely off.
And it was weird because of the deer, they started to migrate. They got all that snow, they'd start migrating, and then all the snow went away.
And usually they don't come back when that happens.
Yeah.
Once they go, they go.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm a believer, and because everybody has their own theories on things. You learn when you're in the woods all the time. But I believe that, a lot of those deer will start migrating when the snow gets like that. And then all of a sudden the snow's gone. And then there's pods of deer where they normally wouldn't be sometimes. They get hung up, And Hal and I used to argue about it. Sometimes they do that, sometimes they don't. But, I've seen it enough now to know that there doesn't have to be so much snow now as there used to be. We used to say when it hits their knees, they're gone. They're going to go here, they're going to go there, they're going to the yard. Now they seem to move before that, Hal. Don't you think that, or am I?
Well, some of them do, but my theory on that is this a lot fewer deer yards now, so some of them travel a long ways.
Yeah.
And if they got to travel 30, 40 miles, they're not hanging around till the snow gets too deep. They get too nervous. At least they start moving towards the deer yards. But then the ones that don't go that far, they usually stay right till the end. It starts getting 18 inches of snow, 2 feet. Then they'll bail real quick. They can make it to their deer yard. Some of them in one day's travel. For them, it's not a big deal. But so.
Well, they're definitely heading there now. We've got another 8 to 14 inches between.
That's what they
Monday
say.
through Wednesday this week.
Monday to Wednesday. So that on top of this is really that's gonna be the final thing for them. They're gonna really start moving, which is not gonna be abnormal because once you get into December, anytime
they're moving anyway.
Yeah, but yeah.
Well, I guess Mike and I are the last two still hunting. So
out of this group, it is.
Yeah.
I want to thank Joe for bringing that up.
You guys will be getting your smoke poles out.
Yeah. Missed a nice one last week, and did you pull the trigger on it yet, Mike?
No, I seen a few smaller ones, and I saw a nice one Saturday, and I let it go, and hopefully I can see another one. I don't know. I thought he was a nice 6. He was a good one, but I let him go, hoping maybe it's something bigger. I gotta beat Hal and Lib.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Hope you do.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell how big the rack was on Lee's. It was it almost looked like a fisheye picture. Was it a good rack?
I haven't seen the rack, but it looks good and heavy in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge rack. Yeah,
it's the one Lee got?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it is very.
It's a good one.
Beautiful deer.
Good.
It's a Lib deer, that's for sure.
You notice he shot it with his limited edition Big Woods bucks.
Oh, did he?
7600.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that.
Oh yeah, christened it. He's been using his old semi-automatic. It's 742. He's used that for years, So I was surprised to see that. But that was pretty cool. They got that on film too. He had a cameraman with him, and
Who was with him?
some guy he met over there that's doing some documentary work over there around Rangeley. Wants to do a film, and Lee met him and asked him if he wanted to include deer hunting into it, and he thought it was a cool idea. So
Perfect.
yeah.
What was it? They get the good footage. They get to kill, and how'd
Well,
that
like
go?
the guy got him. You don't see him shooting the deer because it was in kind of a spruce thicket there, but he's got Lee getting in there and peeking under the firs there, and then got to hear the shot and stuff like that. But you don't see him actually shooting it, which is pretty hard anyways when you're filming in this country. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you got the whole hunt documented. And should be pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how'd your hunt go this year, Hal? You tagged out, right?
Yeah, my hunting season was pretty short this year so far.
We gotta go way back to talk about that one. I mean,
Yeah.
That's been a while ago, and
I almost forgot about it. It's been so long.
I mean, you were in debilitating back pain, and your knee was giving out, and
I'm going to tell you something. A week, not even a week before the season, when the season opened, the Residence Day on Saturday, was October, whatever it was, 27, 26, 27, a little early this year, but it was that Tuesday was when I got my back straightened around so I could get off the couch. I'd been on my back for 10 days. I was either in bed, I'd get up in the morning, and I couldn't even move. My back spasmed so bad I put it out of place and stuff. And I was 10 days like that. I'd have to lay flat on my back on the couch was the only relief I had from the pain. And then plus my knee from having my meniscus operation, I figured it would be all healed up by November, and it wasn't. It was still nagging me, I could walk and everything, but just still had some pain in it. So I was laying there like Monday before the deer season. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to deer hunt. And then Tuesday, I got an appointment down to the chiropractor. I felt like it had like subsided enough where I felt he could get me cracked back in. And so I got down there Tuesday afternoon, and he cracked me a few times in the lower back there, and I stood up like a new person. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. It was like instantly
I couldn't either.
relieved.
I didn't think that would happen.
Yeah, you thought I was on the injured list.
Yep.
But no, I went down there, and he got 2 or 3 cracks on each side in my lower back there, and I mean, as soon as I sat up and got off of that table there, I was like, oh, thank God.
Are you 100% again?
I still feel that because I think those muscles were so spasmed for so long, I actually can still feel that in there.
Do you stretch?
Yeah, I stretch every morning, every
Yeah.
night. He gives me exercises, and I stretch it, but I'll wake up in the night still, and it's almost, sometimes I wonder if it's a phantom pain. I can feel those same spasms, but it's not it doesn't spasm, but it feels lame in my back where those spasms were. So it still hasn't completely healed in there. And but anyways, I got out hunting anyways. So that was on Tuesday, and then Saturday, Residence Day, I got out, and we had already had some snow, and I headed for a distant mountain where I'd hunted before. And that day I come close to getting one get up in front of me about 25 yards out of his bed. I don't know, I couldn't see it where he was laying, but when he stood up, and this buck was bigger than the one I shot, but I think this buck was all day long 250, that one. I just see one jump when he got up, and I couldn't get on him. But then I realized right that day that I was going to be struggling with my knee for the season because I got up in that rough country there, and, when you're going up and down that steep terrain and side hilling, and, when you only have a little bit of snow, it's kind of slippery too, and I'm like, boy, this is going to be kind of bad. So I left that buck in the afternoon, headed the wrong way, and it took me 2 hours to get back to the truck. That's how far back I was. But then I rested Sunday, and I said, got to get out Monday and get after it again. And Monday I went to another mountain and did the same thing, and I couldn't find a good track Monday. And that's the way it is quite often early in the season, late October. Those big ones really they're not laying down many tracks. They're just biding their time, and they're being fat and lazy. And I found a couple of decent-sized bucks, might have gone 200, but I just never never found nothing. And by 3 o'clock that afternoon, my knee had had enough, and I come down that day. And then I rethought my thinking. I said, I got to find a little bit, easier going than them steep mountains for the next day. So I made a plan I had a place I hadn't been to for quite a few years. I said, I'm going to go over and try that. I knew there was some snow there, and it was actually over kind of towards where I was the first day, the opening day there, but some lower ground. And so I get up in the morning, and I thought about, that wasn't my first thing. I was going to actually come down and hunt down this way, Joe, because there was more snow and there's some places that aren't too rough. And I actually headed down this way, and I popped into my mind I should go over that other place, and I turned the Ram Charger around and went in another road. And I was headed over into this other country, and then there was basically pretty much bare ground most of the way. You'd be some patches of snow, and then, I got in there a ways, and all of a sudden I got to a spot, there was a couple inches of snow again, and it's an area that doesn't normally have early snow. It's kind of lower ground. I thought it was really odd, and I said, geez, there's no snow. There's snow in here. That's enough to track. So I said, I'm going to hunt here, because I hadn't been able to hunt there for quite a while, because we haven't had a lot of snow in the last few years. And so I said, I'm going to go in there, and I wheeled on in this old side road there and went back to this back ridge there that I go to, and it's like 3 miles long. It's kind of a cool ridge. It's not real high and it's not real rugged, but it's a long, long ridge, and there's a stream. There's a stream and green growth on one side of it.
Okay, I'm narrowing it down in my mind now. I'm figuring it out.
Yeah, and there's an old logging road on the other side of it. So I got down in there, and I was looking for tracks on the way in. That road is probably into where I went. It's got to be, I don't know, must be 5 miles anyways, 5 or 6 miles. And I actually ran out of snow. I saw a few tracks crossing the road, over the snow had been a few days. And, but I didn't see any good tracks. So I got in where I was going to go. I had a place in my mind where I was going to go, but when I got way in, there's a stream in there. And when I got into that lower country, the snow was half gone in there. And I'm like, oh, geez, I'm not going to go down in there. Well, I turned back around again, and I come back about maybe a half a mile or so, and finally parked the Gray Ghost and jumped out, and I get on the back of that ridge, and I hunted that. And, there was a track here and there, and doe tracks, maybe small bucks here and there, and I just kept going and going and going, and finally I see a fresh track, medium-sized track. I thought it was by itself. I said probably like a medium buck or something. It was right smoking fresh. So I just poked on that real easy just to see what it was, and come up over a knoll, and I see a deer go, and I snorted at it. Stopped. It was about one of the biggest does I've ever seen. I think that thing was, 180 pounds or something, a huge doe. So I waited for her to just kind of wander down out of there and kept going. I was probably, I'd have to guess, 2 miles into that trip on the back of that ridge, and it was kind of funny. I didn't pick up a big track or anything, but I stumbled head on right into a fresh scrape, dirt thrown everywhere. And it's like, what's the odds of that? Just walking right into a scrape, And I looked to the left. I could see dirt all over the snow down there and leaves. And 20 feet from it, there was another scrape. I go, I got something going on here. So I looked in the scrape, and I could see the track. I was trying to get a good print in the mud, because in the snow the track was made like pretty early in the night. It was kind of rounded over pretty hard. And I got in the mud there in the scrapes there, and I looked, and I go, that's a pretty good track right there. That guy's over 200 for sure. So started in on it. That's what I had going on, And that thing was laying down the scrapes. For being that early, I was surprised. Usually they don't get doing that much until you get into like first week in November or second week. And this guy was like, every 50 yards, it seemed like, he'd lay a scrape down. Sometimes they would just half-ass. They were like parns or something there. And he'd rub his horns, and he'd go. And, I said, I'm thinking to myself, this is a buck that's going to be probably not easy to get. None of them are easy. But I'm thinking I got a chance to get this guy, because he's distracted. But I said, first I got to catch up to him. So I kept motoring along. And finally I come to a bed, and when he got up out of the bed, the track was just as old as old looking as when he got there. So I said, geez, I'm not gaining very fast here. So I kept going, kept pushing and pushing on. And finally, I'm looking down in front of me, and I'm like, I can see the road. And I'm like, that's the road I drove in on. I said, how did I miss this track? He's headed right for it. I get down there, and that buck, when he got down to the road, the ditches are excavated, obviously, and there's always weeds and raspberries along the edges. But when he got to the edge of the ditch, he abruptly turned left, and he walked down the edge of the weeds, and he crossed that road. They had taken a culvert out of the road, and it was wet there, kind of in dirt. It was bare ground. And he purposely, I know he purposely walked over there and crossed where there was no snow in that road. You think, well, geez, why would he do that? And I can't tell you why, but I don't think they know so much that they leave a track, but maybe it was because it was damp there. And I know when they cross, a lot of times, a lot of these big bucks, they don't cross the roads as much as the other deer, and they get nervous about a coyote getting on them or whatever. But he purposely, because there's no reason that he did that other than there was some bare ground there, and that's where he crossed. And so anyways, he kept going and going and going, motoring along down in this green growth and making scrapes, making rubs. And geez, he made a really nice rub on a yellow birch, about a 4 or 5 inch yellow birch. He shined that up. So I'm always thinking, boy, what's this guy got for rack, and stuff like that. You're trying to visualize it, Mm-hmm. And so anyways, I didn't go too far beyond that. And all of a sudden there's a smoking fresh track, like made since daylight, coming back in his track. And I'm like, oh, what's going on here? So I looked at it, and I'm like, geez, a same size track, and it was coming back in it. So I'm thinking, well, maybe he went up on that ridge and laid down and come back. And they don't do that often, come right back down their track after they laid down. So I'm like, well.
That's decision time then.
Well, it is.
We're always faced with these when you spend a lot of time on a track. And
yeah, I liked it. It's a lot of times when you get on a track, I'm some of the tracks I'm not real excited about, because I've been on big tracks before, and then all of a sudden they go between a couple of narrow trees, and you're thinking, oh, geez, what the heck has he got for a rack, even though it's a good track. So you're not, all of a sudden your mind is saying, I don't know, maybe I got to look at this before I shoot. But anyways, I said, I'm going to just change, because it was a fresh track, because the one I was on, it was I think by then it was probably 10:30 by now. And, that piece that when I crossed the road on him, if I'd have seen that in the road, that was probably almost 3 hours I lost, there by not seeing that.
Right.
No big deal. But anyways, the other track still hadn't freshened up at all. So I said, I'm going to get on this one. It's the same size track. There's a chance it's the same buck. So I got on that one, and he actually turned, and he kind of swung back in the direction the other one was going anyways. But what I did notice about it was he wasn't laying down as many scrapes. He did some, he'd paw and he'd rub his horns, but not as much. But that could have been just because he laid down and decided he'd done enough of it. I don't know. But anyways, he kept going along, and he got into these kind of a hardwood ridge there. It was pretty nice going. You could see pretty good, and there was some whips here and there. And then it crossed paths with another track the same age, just to say it was a hair smaller. If you looked at the two together, you could pick out the bigger one. But the other one was a nice track too, 200-pound buck. And they'd cross paths, and they'd walk in the same place a few times. And then, it went a while longer, and then he turned up that ridge, headed up the ridge, and got real thick up in there, a lot of beech whips and saplings and stuff. And I said, this guy's going up in here somewhere to lay down. Because he'd been feeding the whole way, too, after he'd crossed the road, he did quite a bit of feeding along the way. Sure enough, all of a sudden I come to a bed. He was tucked in there was a little pinnacle up in that ridge, some rocks on it and some spruce. And he was tucked right in behind a spruce tree, just classic of where one would lay, and saw me coming or heard me or something. Probably saw me because it was pretty quiet going. So I said, well, I'll have my sandwich. I looked at my watch. It was 11:30 then, I think. And I sat down on a stone to eat my sandwich, and I just pulled my sandwich out of my pocket, and a deer snorted to my right. Now, he'd gone. I was sitting facing the way he left, where he ran out, and this was to my right. And I'm like, geez, can that be that that buck, would that be that buck over there? And I'm like, geez, it doesn't seem like it would be. So anyway, I just grunted. And this was it couldn't have been more than 50 yards from me. It was just over that pinnacle on the other side of it. I grunted, waited a minute, snorted again, grunted a couple more times. And then a minute or two later, it snorted again, but I could tell it was further away. It was like more distant. So I'm like, oh, he moved off. So I snuck through that little fir thicket there to get where I could see out the other side where the snorting was. And I sat on found a rock over there. There was all these rocks on that pinnacle. But anyways, I sat on that a rock over there, and I just waited, ate my sandwich, and I'd grunt once in a while, and look around. I couldn't see very far. And then I was still wondering if it could be that buck. It didn't seem like it would be. It just didn't add up. But so anyways, half hour goes by. I walk over first thing to see the track. I get over there, same size track. I'm like, gotta be him. But I want to make for sure. So I backtracked it where it came from, and sure enough, it was the same buck. He ran about, I don't know, not more than 100 yards. He ran up this ravine when he got out of his bed, and then he swung right around to the right and slowed down and stopped, and then he walked back. There was a little old skid road in there, and he walked down that skid road, and that's where he was standing when he was snorting. So right then I knew this buck is not spooked. He didn't see me. He just might have caught a movement or something, but he's not spooked at all, I said, this is going to be pretty good right here. So I get on his track, and he bounded up this hill. It was a skid trail, an old skid trail, went up on this real green bluff, it had been cut over, but it was thick green bluff. A couple moose tracks were in that skid road, and then I get right up to the top of it. It was probably from where I sat, 100 yards or something. And here comes that other track that I'd seen down, the one that crossed paths. It was his track again. And they're both walking down. That skidder trail kind of went right over the top and dropped down the other side. And now I'm thinking, geez, I might see the other one first. And I said, nah, that other buck should have been gone by, before this, because this one had laid down, So anyway, I just poked down over there real easy down that skid trail, and I got probably 100 yards down from the top. It was kind of a corner in it. I was going easy, and all of a sudden, in the firs, I see a big body jump to the left. I just see two jumps, and I thought it's...
How far from you?
Probably 40 yards, something like that.
Close.
It was in the greens, right thick greens, and I just see two jumps in them greens, and it disappeared. And when I last saw it, it just seemed like it had the appearance that it stopped. You know what I mean? I said, that guy stopped right in there. So, but when I saw it jump, I snorted real quick. And then I grunted a few times, and I waited. And I'm watching there because I'm like, he's probably just standing there waiting. So I'd grunted a couple times, and I said, I'm going to just try to bleat and see if that'll work. So I pulled my Bigwood's call out of my pocket, and I started to blow on it. It was making this weird squeaky noise. And I looked down, and it's got spruce needles and pocket lint and everything else in it. So I said, geez, I looked at it, and I didn't want to, usually you got to kind of take it apart and blow the stuff out of there, and I didn't want to do that. So I stuck it back in my pocket, and I just bleated with my mouth. I grunt with my mouth now and bleat both, but I just meow like that, And I'd do that a couple times, and I'd wait a minute. I kept watching in that spot. Probably 10 minutes went by, and right in the thick greens over there, I see a tail flicking. I'm like, oh, something's right there. So, but it wasn't where I saw the buck disappear. It was like 20 yards down to the right of it, below it a little bit. So I couldn't see nothing else. It was just a wall of firs in there. So I bleated a couple more times, and I'd wait, and I see the tail flick again. I'm like, well, when the tail's flicking like that, they're not nervous. You know what I mean? They're pretty calm. I kept staring in there, and then all of a sudden I saw a movement. There was some kind of a little bit of an open, thin spot in there, and I saw looked like orange moving in there, and I'm like, what the heck? And it was a dead calm day, and there was still a few leaves on a couple of the beech trees and stuff that are orange, but there was no wind. I'm like, that's got to be antlers moving in that spot. So I got my binoculars out, and I'm looking, nothing. Can't see a thing with my binoculars. I put them down, and I bleated again. I waited another minute. All of a sudden, I see it again. Same spot. I see that orange moving. Then I didn't see it anymore. Put the binoculars up. Nothing. I'm like, that's a buck, and he's right there. And then I'm looking, and I know where his head is, basically, and I could see his tail flick once in a while. And I'm thinking, maybe I should just shoot right through them furs. And I'm like, but I couldn't see any body. And I'm like, my luck, I'm going to shoot into 3 fir trees before it gets over there. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that. He's not nervous at all. So I said, I'm going to try to move a little bit where I can maybe get an opening. So I would bleat as I took a step, because the snow was a little noisy, that was granular. So I'd bleat and I'd step and I'd wait a minute. I'd bleat and I'd take a step. I probably got, 4, 5, maybe 6 steps downhill there. And all of a sudden I could see that buck's face. I could see his face, his ears, and I could see them orange antlers. And I could see they were outside of his ears. So I'm like, oh, that's him right there. And then I could make out his white patch under his chin, and that's all I could see. I couldn't see anything else. And this is probably now only 25 or 30 yards, no more than 30. So I put it right on his white patch. Boom. And nothing. Everything, the woods is like dead quiet. I didn't see nothing move. I didn't hear anything move. I don't hear
Always
anything.
a good sign.
Yeah, but usually, I didn't know. It could be a good sign.
Yeah, they
could be
take one jump and gone.
Yeah, but he
2 ways to look at
could
that.
have moved or something. Because usually, usually they kick or something.
Something, yeah.
So I waited. I didn't move for about a minute. I stood there staring right over there, nothing. So I said, well, I got to sneak over there and see what happens. So I had to go uphill and get around them thick firs, When I got over there, I get out, and there was another skid road over there. It was like the next skid road over. He was laying there dead in the doornail. I'd hit him right in the jugular, and it come out in the back of his neck, broke his neck, and he cut his jugular off, and there was a pool of blood there. And first thing I seen, I was about, when I went up around him, I was probably 20 yards from him or something. I'm like, here I go again, short changed on the rack, because I could see he had kind of short points. So he was wide, but short points, and then I could see he didn't even have any brow points. So he's a 6-point. I go, that's my luck. Never get the horns.
Yeah, but when they weigh 227, you can live with it, right?
Well, yeah. I know you can't be too fussy, but it just seems to be my luck about it. But I'm happy in how, it's not about that. It's about the hunt.
Yep.
Everything that happens along the way. And so I walk down there and I go, gee, this thing is, because when you see horns that are, when they're not as big, your first tendency is to think the deer isn't that big. You know what I mean?
Yep, like probably a 190.
Yeah,
190 pounder.
probably 190. Yeah, that's what some people would think. So I get down there and he's laying in a heap, and I'm like, boy, that thing is pretty big. He's thick. And then so I wrestled him around, get set up to take pictures and do a little videoing and stuff. And I noticed how big his hind end was, when I was pulling him around to get him set up. And I'm like, this thing is pretty big. And I'm still to myself, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure he'll go 200. They're a little heavier early in the season anyways. I'm sure he's going to go 200, but I don't know how much more than that he'll go. Hey, everyone. Hal here. You want to join the hunting club as soon as you can, because that's where you're going to get all my information. I'll have short film hunts, video tips, articles every month, and there's also a forum on there for you people to communicate. Maybe you'll meet a new hunting buddy on there. And the other thing is a question of the month. Submit a question, and I'll pick one every month to answer, and the winner is going to end up getting a decal for their truck. Join up at bigwoodsbucks.com. Hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
I did my thing there and videoed and took care of him. And anyways, I got my inReach out. I said I'm going to let my wife know and Chris that I got one. And so I sent an inReach message out. And Chris gets it, and he sends me back one, I don't know, 5-10 minutes later. I get a message. He had called Joe, and luckily Joe happened to be at the lodge. He had a meeting with somebody at the lodge here, and he said he'd come help me drag. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I could probably drag this out, because I'd looked on my GPS, and I was only 0.3 miles from the road, but which meant about a half a mile drag. It's down around a ridge.
You always got to think about your elders and helping them out when they need help like that.
Yeah.
When they're old and decrepit, back problems, knee problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, for you folks that are listening to this, don't do anything for the next 10 minutes. This gets real interesting.
Oh, jeez.
Mr. Technology over here.
Yeah. Well, I have a hard time with that, thinking, having somebody drag my deer out, because I've always done it and no problem. And so anyways, I said, yeah, that'd be nice to have some help. So he said, okay, and Joe's on the way. Then finally, Joe gets a hold of me, and was Jonah's inReach, right? Because you didn't have, Mike had yours.
Yeah.
So you had Jonah's inReach, and you sent me a message, but meanwhile, I had drugged the buck down about 150 yards. I got him down off. I got him hitched up with a stick and everything, and his feet up behind his horns, and I got him down there about 150 yards till it leveled out, and I go, this thing's dragging. That's when I knew he was a little heavier. I said, this thing's dragging a little pretty hard, and I could feel my back tightening up, and I'm like, you know what? There's no way. I said, I can't ruin my back again by being stupid. So I left him there, and I said, at least them guys are coming. I'm going to find the best way to get out of here. And so I did that. Meanwhile, I'm walking down, figuring the best path to take to get down to the road, and my inReach is beeping in my pack. Well, it beeps when a message comes in, it'll beep periodically till you answer the message. I said, well, I'll wait till I get down the road, and I'll get down there, and I'll answer the message. So I get down to the road, and I look at it.
Let's just stop right there. Your inReach is beeping, so someone's sending you a message. Usually when someone sends you a message, it's because they want to get a hold of you. They have something to say. Do you do the same thing with text? You get a text and you wait till later on?
No, I'm pretty prompt usually.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I was annoyed about it beeping, so.
You know how to get it to stop?
Yeah.
Read the message.
Imagine that.
So I get down there, and I've got it, I'm not very techie, but I've got it Bluetooth to my phone now, which makes it a lot easier, because I don't take the inReach. I don't carry it on all the time, but I had put it on, so it's Bluetooth to my phone. And then I got my maps, my EarthMate apps in it too, so it's kind of handy for me. It's kind of works as a GPS for me now. So anyways, I pull it out and I look at messages. A message from Joe. He goes, "You've sent an SOS. Are you okay?" And I'm like, I didn't send no SOS. I'm thinking to myself. So I wrote back. I sent a message back. Now you got to remember, these messages, they go up to the satellite and back down, so it's not like a text where it's almost instant. And I said, I didn't send an SOS. Yeah, I'm fine. So then I said, geez, he said I set it off. I said, how the heck could I set the SOS off? So I get the inReach out of my pack, and I look at it, and the button's locked. It's locked and everything, but it's beeping, flashing SOS on my inReach. So I'm like, geez, how do I got to take care of this now? So I'm fiddling through it and pushing the different buttons, where it's saying something.
But I love to have video of that.
Yeah, right.
Because this is where I'm really not techie, and I can't figure out every button I push. It isn't getting me anywhere, And finally, a screen pops up that's got the message from inReach itself saying, and there was actually two of them, because I guess it'd been long enough where they said, you've sent an SOS, help is on the way, and all this. And I'm like, oh no. So I replied to that, and I said, I didn't set it off. I'm okay. So I took care of it with inReach, or I thought I did, because that still don't take care of it. There's still like 3 more hoops to jump through with them. But so meanwhile, Joe was out. You was at the gas station. You was at Bishop's, right?
No, I was. We were here at the lodge, and
Game
to
warden?
back up a little bit, there had been an hour and a half that had gone by since the original SOS. So sheriff's department was notified, local game warden, came here.
Every helicopter
No.
in Maine was looking for
The pilot was just getting ready to get in the plane in Jackman to start flying, which I don't know how he was flying that day. It was pretty cruddy. And so we were actually en route. Jonah and I were following the game warden, blue lights and all, going out to save Hal. And
Joe's thinking he's going to have to pay for this.
Yeah, that was going through my mind because it gets pricey unless you have that rescue insurance. And so the best part is just when we were getting ready to get out of cell service where I wouldn't have been able to get a text. I got your inReach message back, and it was not a very subdued "I'm okay." It was, I did not send a SOS with like 3 exclamation points, but yes, I need help dragging. So that was a relief. And we kind of, you always hope or think that it was a mistake, but with Hal's back the way it was, we didn't know if he got in a situation where he couldn't even move or something, or you never know what happens. Fall down on the antlers like some people we know.
Well, now, Hal, it's kind of funny. He's talking about how much he was worried about you after. That might have cost me money. I don't know about that. This is the guy that won't buy double stuffed Oreos at Moose Camp, right?
Yeah. No, I mean when the rescues come out, they charge for that stuff. It's not. However, I did, to back up a little bit. They do have one of the guy I actually guided a moose hunt for this year sent me some links, and it's like $100 a year insurance, and it covers anything, anywhere, if you have to be rescued. So it's something for everyone to look into. But anyway, we were all happy that Hal was okay, and we and one of the nice things, this was a kind of cool about the inReach. We headed out there, and it was funny on the way out. I'm watching the snow conditions going out, and it was just like the way you described it. I said, "What's he doing out here? Where did he find snow out here? Because it was pretty well bare ground."
Yeah.
And then once we got over in that country, it started a little bit more, but it was marginal.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
No, I didn't have a lot of snow, but I had enough.
Yeah, you had enough apparently, and so we still had really no. I just had the location on the map. And so we drove down the road and we got to the closest point that we could to where the message came from, and we straight lined it through the woods. And where we walked into you, I was like, man, I hope we don't have to drag the deer through this stuff. I mean, it was bad. It was
right.
It was blowdowns like you wouldn't believe. And so, but Hal was back getting his truck. And so Jonah and I, we followed, looked on the inReach, and we walked right to the deer. I mean, walked right up on it. So it's pretty cool, but it was a much easier drag than that coming out because it was downhill. And
pretty nice hike.
Oh, look at it snow right now. I'm looking out the window.
Just pointed that out to you guys. It's snowing like crazy outside.
Nice.
Well, Hal's found a new way to get his bucks dragged out.
Yeah.
Just hit the SOS.
Oh, yeah.
Hit the SOS and people will come.
Yeah.
two helicopters, 4 wardens later, and he's got his deer out.
Yeah, and Kim had to, call the pilot off and everything like last minute, like they were just getting ready to go. So that was good timing. But it all ended up being, everything was good, and we had a good time once we got out there.
Yeah, when I got the message, when I got to the road, I said, well, I knew it was going to take you an hour to drive in, So I said, I'll walk back to the get my Ram Charger there, and I'll be waiting when they get there, because where I found the best place out. Well, I kept walking and walking and walking and walking. I'm like, I didn't realize how far I'd come, where I'd ended up killing him. It ended up being, I think I told you it was like a couple of 0.2 of a mile shy of 3 miles.
Yep.
I walked back to the truck, and I just got to the Ram Charger when you said you were at the closest point heading in. So time I drove the Ram Charger up, you guys had already got it started. And
there's something going on with the inReaches, though, where they're not working right. There's a long delay. Like normally it takes a little bit, but ever since Garmin took over from DeLorme.
Yeah, I noticed we were trying to. When we went out with Joe Donito to New York last week. Chris got Steve's fixed up, and we were trying to send messages to each other to make sure that everybody's was working. And and some of those took ungodly long, and I mean an hour, some of them.
Right. Yeah, there's something wrong with it. They're I don't know if it's in their system with the switch over or what it is, but their website's completely different now. It's tougher to work on the program them and all that, but they'll work through it, I'm sure.
When you say long, what do you mean by long? How long does it take to get the message?
Well, I think
Sometimes
some of them were
hour.
No kidding, huh?
But the ones, I think some of them were that day were a half an hour, which is really too long because, granted, and I don't really know how the inReach got set off, and I had to call the I don't know if you call it tech support or whatever you call it, because I couldn't get the thing to shut off that night, because if there's an SOS, you can't shut your machine off. So I called about that, and he showed me how to do it. That was that other hoop. You got to go in and you got to do something and tell them, yes, you want to cancel it or whatever. Then you can shut it off. But anyways, they told me to call tech support to figure out why it went off, because I told the guy, I said, this, it was locked. I couldn't, and you can do it. You can also do it from your phone, but I never go down there. It's the bottom one on the menu, and there's no way I did that. But the only thing I can figure out was when I had turned it on and I carried it in the back pocket of my pack, I used my pack to put my camera on and my video camera. And that's what I set it on a stump, and I was squishing it around, handling my pack and trying to scrunch it up and get it to, so the camera was level. And the only thing I can think of is I pushed the right combination of buttons through the pack without seeing it. And I mean, the odds of it's astronomical to do that, because I looked at it afterwards, and I would have had to hit the check mark to unlock it, to open it up. Then I would have gone into I noticed that the SOS is one right and one down from the messages where I leave it. I leave it on messages.
You would have had to scroll.
I would have had to scroll hit the right scroll, and then hit the down scroll, and then hit the check mark to set that off. Now, maybe I did it because I handled it a lot, and the guy told me, he said, you had to have, because that's the only way. But what he did also tell me is you can lock the screen, which I never knew that. When you go into it and you open it up, it's the same button, like you hit the check mark and hold it like you're going to shut the power off. There's one of the things that says lock screen, and you check the lock screen, and if you lock the screen, it won't do that without unlocking it. So now I know enough to do that. But it's all part of the learning curve. But so anyways, we got him drugged down there, and, well, we didn't. Joe and Jonah got him drugged down. This is another good one here. We got to pick on Joe a little bit, Mike. So,
okay. Oh boy,
that's easy.
We don't
target.
we don't like to do that, but
I can tell.
No, usually it's me, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I walked up in the woods. So when I got the Ram Charger, and the time I got back, I could see his truck parked back a little bit more than I threw a spruce limb in the road where I came out, so they'd see it, But I didn't tell them had done that, but. I walked back up my back track to get in there, and they were coming down my track. They must have figured that's the best way to go. They just got started off the skid road down into my track, coming down the hardwoods. And, they congratulated me and all that. I said, yeah, I got short change on the horns again. And I said, but at least you're going to go 200. And Joe goes, you think so? And I go, yeah, I'm pretty sure that thing's going to go.
They drug like an old doe. I mean,
yeah.
No rack to get hung up on anything. And
So he goes, I was thinking 190. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, I was thinking 190. And I go, I don't think so, Joe. That thing's got to go over 200. Because I knew when I've drug enough 200-pound bucks to know he was dragging pretty hard by myself. Even though I'm older, I can still tell the weight. And he goes, oh, maybe it's 195. So I said, okay, let's put a little money on it here. So we get down anyways, and we loaded it. That was a good help, too, loading it on the hood of the Ram Charger there. I had help doing that for the first time.
Yeah, that I don't know how you do alone, because we had to put it in the back of a truck and then onto the Ram Charger. You got to make a little crane hoist or something for that thing.
Yeah, probably as I get older, I have to think a little smarter. But anyways, we get to town, we make the ride out. It was kind of nice ride out, zipping out through the roads there.
Oh, well, nice ride. We thought Hal was drunk or having seizures or something in his truck because he was every time there would be a right turn in the road. Hal was off the road on the left side, and I was seriously to the point where I thought he was going to roll the Ram Charger off because he was so close to going to the ditch. He'd get it over there, and then they would jerk the wheel back to the right. And I said to Jonah, I'm like, is he all right? Because, there was no reason to be driving erratic. Well, once we got to the tag station and I jumped in and had to pull it up to the scale, I said, oh, I know why he couldn't see over the deer.
Yeah, them thick deer, you can't see over them. So I have to look over his neck all the way out. And on a right-hand turn, especially on a downhill right-hand turns is the worst because you can't see down over them.
It was a good thing we didn't meet anyone.
Yeah. Well, I was going easy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You were going easy, all right.
Yeah. So we get down to the tagging station. I pull in, and there was a buck they were weighing a buck on the scale there, and I pulled off to the side and shut it down, and a couple of people come over, and Meg come over, nice buck. That's over 200, yeah. I said, I don't know. Probably, I think it is. And then Ray, the owner of the store, he comes walking over. That's your buck? Yeah. He goes, that's going to go 220. And I go, well, tell Joe that.
Yeah. Well, I started worrying then because I know you've seen a few of them too. Ray weighs them every day.
Yeah, yeah.
So I said, ooh, I might lose on this one.
Yeah.
So a store clerk and a lady just at the weighing station gets the weight right.
Yeah,
and Joe does it okay. Yeah.
Well, I've learned it's better to underestimate than to overestimate. I try to do the same thing on moose antlers too.
Yeah. Well, I'm usually conservative too. That's why you notice I never said a weight. I just said he's over 2.
Yeah.
And I didn't say a weight, but. And we finally got him hoisted up there, and it goes to 227. I said, what do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah.
He's pretty quiet.
Let's back up a little. Well, not back up, but I was there the other day when Ray was weighing one up, and Ray was about the same pounds off. He had guessed over on a deer. He had guessed it to be 220 something or whatever, and it was it was like 190 or something like that, just the opposite. So.
Oh yeah.
I called him out on it.
That particular deer you're talking about, though, because I was there, wasn't I? You came in, I was leaving or something, but I saw that deer, and it was a very short deer.
Was that Dave's deer?
That was the one that threw Ray off. The deer was like
really
short,
No,
remember?
he guessed 230 something. It was 200.
Yeah.
It was 200 on the nose. That was Dave Burke's buck. That was a nice buck, nice rack, but it was short, wasn't it? Yeah.
But we weighed. My hunters weighed 2 bucks that day, and 3 other ones came in before you got there. No brow tines.
No.
Out of the 6 deer that came in for a while there, 5 of them didn't have brow tines.
Yeah.
It made me think of it when you said yours didn't have brow tines.
Well, those are the ones that get out of the gene pool, right?
I guess. Yeah. They don't have to. I don't have to. I don't look for that. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
Great story. But now I got to get the days right on this. It was Tuesday you shot it, right?
Yeah.
Because Monday I said to my wife, I said, well, this will be Hal's last day of hunting today. I says, I can tell by looking out there, he's going to kill his buck today. So my wife says, I thought his back was sore. I said, all right, I'll give him another day. So he shoots it on Tuesday.
That's funny.
How many times have I called that on you? All the years we've been together, I can tell the day that Hal's going to kill his buck.
Well, you know the deer killing days now. You know, that's what it is. Anyways, it's about the conditions, and it was just a nice day with a little bit of snow, and it was dampened up a little bit. Just a good kind of day to get one on.
Yeah, it was beautiful that day. It was.
He also knows how to make those antlers grow too, because he took one picture of it there from his porch, and it looks like it has a big rack on it. I said, how in the heck did you do that? It looks like a big old giant deer hanging there with a nice set of antlers. And
well, from the side,
I think he photoshopped.
You can't see the brow points from the side. You see, so that's
but it was even. It was a little bit. It wasn't thick. They were a little spindly, but they look good hanging there.
Spindly.
Okay.
We haven't heard that for a while. Jeez, that was.
Well,
I was guiding.
Don't ask what mine looks like. All right.
I was guiding a guy many years ago, and we come back from hunting that night, and Hal says, "Well, did you guys see anything?" I says, "Yeah, he saw a 6-pointed, but it was too spindly, so he didn't shoot it." So ever since then, Hal's like, "What's spindly anyway?"
You never use that term? Yeah,
Well, we
spindly
do
is
now.
Not real,
We do now.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been a great season as far as conditions and deer. Everyone's killing big bucks. Well, most everyone. But
well, you guys like to wait to muzzleloader season, anyways. You gotta
always
get the whole season in. So.
Well, a lot of us, you used to have the day we couldn't hunt till muzzleloader season because we always guided.
Well,
I'm still in those shoes, unfortunately.
That's not my excuse. I've had plenty of days. I missed a nice one last week. Had a good time though.
That was a big one, huh, Joe? The one you missed?
Yeah, it was a good buck.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean you missed?
I missed him. I shot and the deer didn't die.
Okay, let's.
I got you.
It was an easy tracking job. It was like just as perfect as it gets. I mean, it had everything you want out of the bed. Jump him in a cedar swamp. Had one good shot opportunity. He was broadside running through the swamp and just. It was a coin flip, that when you're tracking like that, it's quick shots and not necessarily perfect, but like you always say, you just want to get them leaking.
Yeah.
When you're on the snow, you can wait for perfect shots and all that and stop the deer on hunting shows, but when you're tracking, it doesn't work like that. You just shoot at the deer.
Yeah, when they're running, there's a lot of twigs to hit that you don't see when they're running. Or you see the animal, but you see the big trees. You try to pick through them, but you don't see any of that small stuff you can hit.
But it is fun to let them rip when you get into it,
Well, you can't hit them if you don't shoot. The way we hunt, that's most of the time that's the kind of shot we get. To get those like the one Hal got. How many times can you say you shot one like that, Hal? Just standing there, huh?
I've shot a few that way. But this was actually what was kind of neat about it for me was this is the first one that I actually a good big buck that I called back and shot it. I've called them back before and not got them, and found out that they were coming or something, but that's the first one I ever called back and got it,
Well, that's one thing that, we might want to touch on that a little bit is how much we do call now that maybe 10 years ago we didn't, huh? We seem to be doing that a little more. I know I am, and I know that when I'm guiding, I've been doing a lot of it and showing people deer that way. I mean, I've called a lot more than I used to. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like you do more, Hal.
Well, for me, it's a patience thing anyway. If you're going to stop and call, you got to have patience to wait around. They ain't going to come running in usually, so you got to have a little patience for it. And I tell you the reason I had the patience to wait there, to tell you the truth, was because I thought he was standing there. It just, when he jumped like that, the appearance was that he jumped into the furs and stopped. So I had more patience. And I think the other reason was I knew he wasn't spooked. And every hunt's different. I knew that buck was not spooked at all. And again, I waited my half an hour, which I've been doing for forever, but
unless the buck's with a doe, right?
Unless he's with a doe, I don't usually do this. If you're with a hot doe,
are we going to touch on that today?
Yeah.
And we were talking about it earlier.
So everyone knows Hal's grunt call is not a $25 grunt tube from Primos. It's a burp.
Yeah, I burp him in. So, but anyways, I killed that buck 200 yards from where his bed was. He went up the hill and down the other side. So you think about that I waited a half an hour, and it was probably time I got that straightened around. I checked his backtrack. So it was probably an hour. And I think I looked. I think it was 12:30 when I shot him. It was 11:30 when I went after him or something. But it was probably an hour. So in an hour, that buck hadn't gone 200 yards after being jumped.
Yeah, exactly.
So... And other times you jump him like that, and you never know till you get on him what happened. You don't know, did he see you good enough to really get spooked and run a mile, or what happened?
Right,
so
right.
That's a difference. You've got to interpret through his track what really is going on in his life and think about what he's thinking about. And that's how you make your decisions on what to do. Are you going to call, or you're not going to call? You're just going to, whatever you're going to do. It's all about reading into the track and, seeing his life.
Reading into the track's been challenging this season too with the depth of the snow. It does change a lot. I mean, we've had so much powder snow this year that it takes you a few minutes sometimes to work out what direction they're going. You know, it's I haven't. It's been a lot of years since I've dealt with this much snow. I mean, you trudge around, you go out across these cuts some places, it's knee deep, and it's settled down a lot now. I noticed yesterday it probably is 8 or 10 inches or something in most of the areas.
Yeah, and up under the spruce trees is only 5 or 6 inches now.
Yeah,
it's settled real good.
But you know, we had quite a talk about age and tracks, and because some of the areas I've been in the past week or so there's a lot of deer. You know, they're laying down a ton of tracks, and there hasn't been anything to freshen them up in a few days. So reading the tracks and interpreting, I mean, it's probably one of the most valuable things, you know, one of the most important things you're going to do, because, you know, the difference between a track that was laid at 6 o'clock last night and 4 o'clock in the morning is a big difference. And, you know, you wasting your whole day, or you on something that's fresh. And
it's been a banner year for the folks that are jumping on with us and realizing, you know, hey, I like this way to hunt. Well, this has been a year for everybody to be out there and really get educated, because, you know, like Joe says, yeah, there's a million tracks out there, but geez, there's 2 feet of snow. Which way is he going? How big is he? How old is it? How many other deer? You know, I mean, when you're tracking a buck now, there's deer wandering through his track all day long when you're tracking them. It's really making it difficult. But, you know, don't look at it as difficult. Look at it as the education's right there, you know. That's how we learned way back when, you know, by walking around out there aimlessly there for a while there, you know. So, yeah, this has been a great year for people really to get educated on the tracking thing.
Why don't you talk a little bit, Hal, about what you were telling me, how you age a track, not from the track itself, but from where it breaks the crust, or
breaks the top edge, not
the top
necessarily
edge,
the crust.
right?
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to go to the Big Woods Bucks website and join the hunting club. On there, you'll find short films of Hal's hunts, video tips and articles written by Hal, as well as a forum where you can go on there and talk with fellow hunters and learn a few things while you're at it. There's a lot of good stuff on there, and we think it's going to be a great place for hunters to just communicate, you know, and talk about a common interest. Check us out at bigwoodsbucks.com.
So most people think about the track, you know, you think about you got 2-3 inches of snow and you can actually see the print all the time. And you can see if it's frozen the bottom or whatever. But I usually, aging the track is really more about what that outside edge looks like, where he breaks through the snow, that top edge, not the print itself. Sometimes you combine them both, and it depends on the temperature. But like I've always said, that track is changing immediately after it's made. It's either thawing or it's freezing, you know, one or the other. You know, it depends on the temperature. So it can melt and round the edges, or it can evaporate the edges from being cold. And we've also had some cold days this past week or so, you know, where it's down 0 or a little below 0 in the morning. It goes through the night like that. That fluffy snow especially evaporates really quick, and those edges round right off. But that's what I look at. In the deep snow, you can't see the print now. Sometimes I dig down through, if I want to see the size of it, I'll just kind of paw the snow side to side and kind of make a big hole, and then stick my bare fingers down and just try to get to the bottom of it and see how big the print is. But usually you can tell by the way it walks, you know, how much he's dragging. I mean, they all drag their feet and that kind of in this snow we have now, but you can see them big bucks are wider apart, longer stride, and the holes where they punch their feet through is a lot bigger than a doe or a smaller.
That's
drag.
one of the biggest things I look for. I mean, it's funny how you'll follow a track. Say you're on a track for an hour and you're just used to looking for that track. It's really something how your brain gets programmed to that. You can pick it out. You know, you can walk into a group where there's a bunch of different tracks, and you can walk around and you can just look at that deer track and know, because it's obviously bigger, but even just the hole that it punches through the snow,
well,
you can tell.
You imprint that in your mind, and it's also, I also look at how a particular buck walks. They don't all walk the same. Some of them swing their feet more. Them old ones, they'll kind of, instead of like walking their feet are straight ahead, or not straight ahead, but they use the big ones toe out. But you'll see when they step, even in the deep snow, there's kind of a little swagger to it. You'll see a little cuff mark on the sides, almost like a half circle where their feet kind of swing out and then back in line and stuff like that. The does don't do that, Those old bucks swagger like that. So and some of them are more excessive than the others. I've been in situations where I can stay on the buck I was on because of that, even though there's another one that's the same, maybe the same size track and everything's the same. It walks differently. So if it's walking differently, you imprint that too, and you have that to go by. So yeah, we're just talking about, looking at those tracks on the edges. I think too many people get wrapped up trying to look down in the deep snow and see a print, but you can't go by that. Just look at the edge. If it's real sharp, like it's cut, easiest thing to do is just look at your track where you just walked. Is it real sharp edges and the dust kicked out, and then compare it to what you're on. And then the colder it is, the quicker it rounds. But it's easy to tell, even if you don't have any snow for days, a track that goes through a whole day, if it was a night before, not just the night before, but if it's a 2-day-old track, if it's gone through a whole day and then another night, that doesn't look anything like one made in the night. It's totally different. Doesn't look anything like it. Especially if you have wind, the tracks will drift in a little bit. And, there's just all that stuff to look for, but you get out there and do it and practice, and it'll come to you.
I always use that term sharp, too. It is like when you're riding in a road in the morning, you ride over tracks, and all of a sudden there's the track. You can tell. And you'll stop, and I'll have clients go, why are you stopping looking at that track and not the other 20 we went by? Because this one's sharp.
Yeah.
This one glistens. And when you get out and look at it, that's, you can tell just right from the truck how sharp that track is. And 9 times out of 10, when you get out, it'll be a fresher one. I'm not saying it's fresh, but it'll be fresher than all the other ones you rode by, huh?
Yeah, I call the other ones, to me, they look blurry. They're rounded and they look blurry. And, guiding over the years, I would point that out to my hunters, and they would look at, I could show them a track that was an hour old and one that was 24 hours old, and they'd look at it and they could not, even when I showed them the difference, they still I don't see any difference. And I don't get that. I don't understand how you couldn't, especially after being pointed out, but I just think it's another thing you got to get focused in on and see it. To me, it's like this one's black and the other one's white, but to some people, it's just different shades of gray,
Yeah.
Just takes practice. Anybody can do it, but you got to get out there and
not only
practice.
Buck hunters, we're also forensics experts.
Well, it's probably one of the single most important skills that you want to develop as a tracker is age and reading that track, because if you don't have confidence in what you're following, your mind's thinking, how far am I? Am I wasting my time?
Right.
On and on, unless, there's been a few occasions. I mean, right now they're laying scrapes down like crazy where I've been. The bucks are, and so things like that, there's other clues, obviously, that you come on and you can see, and how windy has it been, and all those factors come into play. Like, for instance, yesterday where it warmed up, it was pretty cool, and you didn't really see much difference. But once it started warming up, every track that was fresh was laying an imprint in the snow,
right,
like a melting day, and it was that was real easy.
It's almost like the track regresses. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You see a track, and then all of a sudden, well, now it's 40 degrees. And now, like you say, it changes. Almost like the track will regress, and it gets harder to read sometimes. When the weather gets real warm like that.
Well, all of that stuff is that's when people learn that and keep studying it. That's what ends up separating out track followers from trackers. Anybody can follow a track, but to be a tracker and be successful at it and consistent, it's another level. You're taking that skills and interpreting what the buck's doing and aging the track, so you know just how far ahead he is. All of that makes you go from a track follower to a tracker.
Right. A track follower, they're happy with that. And they get their deer. Guys, they go them on to one, if that's the word. But, that's the division right there. Do you want to be a real tracker, or the guys are just as happy following tracks and being deer hunters,
Yeah, because you can follow tracks around, and if you're in a buck track or in some deer tracks, the odds are better of seeing a deer there than ambling through the wood aimlessly.
Yep. Yeah, I can. The full day, all day crashing, going and tracking all day is kind of gone away from me. But I'll do that. I'll take a smaller buck or even does and follow them just to get me onto other deer and stuff like. I have no problem doing that. Like some people say, "What'd you track to?" Well, I tracked a buck, but it wasn't one I would have killed. But I used him to try to find other deer, so things work for different people.
One of the tracks I got onto this past week was a buck with a doe in it. Right soon after I got on it, it was a really fresh track, and they were in some real thick stuff, so it was next to impossible to get in there without them knowing I was there. But when I got down in there, they'd been there for quite some time, and it looked like they just set up camp. They were breeding in there. There was rubs all around in the trees, and just tracks everywhere. And I didn't realize it at the time. I had jumped them out of there. I went in and saw all the tracks, so it takes a few minutes, and I went out and I started doing a loop around to figure it out, and it was in such a thick area. There was blowdowns everywhere. Loops in those areas are a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm climbing over and around and come across their jump marks going out of there. So they were on there. That was a fun chase, though. I followed them for, I was on them for 2 or 3 hours, and finally they were going away from the truck, and it was a long walk back. So I ended up pulling off, but that was a lot of fun. I jumped them a couple times and just couldn't finish it that day.
Well, that's the thing. You don't get them every day, but if you keep going, eventually you're at the right place at the right time, and the cards line up, and that's it.
It is, it's every day you're out there that just the experiences. It's been an awesome hunting season. I've been fortunate enough to be able to put in quite a few days, and aside from a couple days of below zero temps with the wind chill, and like Thanksgiving Day was unbelievable. It was one of those days where I was nervous about a tree blowing down on me in the woods.
Widowmaker.
It was bad.
Yeah.
I actually took a video of one. I walked by a spruce tree, and as I walked by, I saw the ground all move next to me, and it was the whole root ball getting ready to come up. And so but those are also, to me, if you can get on a fresh track, those are great days because it's.
Oh, I love hunting on them days.
Yeah.
If you got the track on those days, it's not 100%, but your odds are pretty high.
Yeah, you can, because there's been a lot of days this season of really like real super quiet, like where you can hear the silence kind of thing, where it's powder, and on those days, it's great that it's quiet because you can walk quiet. But the problem is, it's like in some of the places I was, and most of the places up here, those deer are going through the fir trees, the young firs, and so those firs are all dry, and they've got all the, and you can't, when you walk where a deer walks, it's next to impossible to do it without cracking a branch here and there. It's just, you can't do it.
Oh, and then zero mornings, even raspberry bushes and grass, all that stuff crackles.
Yeah.
You can't get near a deer when it's like that. I had them same. I was in the Adirondacks last week for a week, and it was like that out there a lot of the time. It was deathly still, and it got cold there too. Not as cold as here, but it was down in the in the single numbers, and just deathly still. But that's the hardest time to get one when it's like that. Something's got to line up, like you happen to catch some chasing going on or something,
And give me the foul weather. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Windy, foul weather. I think I've been more successful on those days than not.
Yeah. Another skill that's something that you don't really talk about much and you don't think about much unless you're out there in the woods a lot is picking your lines. You're following the deer track, but you don't follow exactly on the deer track. You're picking your line that you're going to be the quietest and everything. And it sounds silly, to think, oh, well, anyone can walk through the woods, but picking your line where you're going to make the least amount of noise and, a lot of times you'll stop and you got to sit there and look for a minute. All right, how am I going around this blowdown or under it or over it or around the end? And
so you don't get boxed in. And another thing a lot of new trackers do is they think they got a I call it beagling. They get on the track and they got their head down and they got to step everywhere that buck went. If a buck goes in under a spruce thicket or into one, don't go in there. Just go around it and pick the track up on the other side, because every time you get hemmed into a thicket, you get in there and you ain't going to be able to shoot anyway. So that's especially important if you're closing in on one and he's pretty fresh in front of you and you're trying to look and see him. Don't go into anything thick. Just keep yourself where you can see around things, and you might catch him coming out of one of them thickets.
Right. But it's been a good time. It's funny how you haven't well, I guess you did. You were in New York and hunted a week and had a lot of time on the snow. I was going to say it must be different for you not having as much time in the woods this year, tagging out so early. And
yeah, it's been different.
Oh, gee,
but
that's too bad.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to try out my new Woodman's Arms muzzle loader. So
yeah, well, yeah, there's something to be said for it, but in a way, it was kind of a blessing for me because my knee is still actually that week in New York. I've done something to my knee again. I can tell it's not getting better. It's worse now than it was before the season started.
No
Yeah,
kidding.
It's bad. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna have to, when I can really rest it, like through the holidays and getting into January and stuff, where I'm not going to walk as much. I got to see if it's going to get better, because it is. I pushed. It was when I was out there. We had like 4 days where it was about 1 to 3 inches of snow, and it was slippery because it was wet the first day, and then it froze up and it was crunchy underneath, and it was slippery on the ridges. I did pass up a pretty nice 9-pointer the first day. It was 2 bucks chasing a doe, and I said, "Oh, geez, that's pretty good," and I got it on video and everything.
Oh, yeah, good footage?
Yeah, got good footage. I got that buck actually laid down. I got him laying down and closing his eye and sleeping. Yeah, I watched him for about 10 minutes. It was a 9, and it was nice. It was fairly heavy, width of his ears, 6-inch tines, nothing great. Yeah. And I said, I'm coming out here. I might as well try to get something with a rack, and because you don't get big deer really out there anyway. So, but that whole time I was there, after that day, I only saw 2 other buck tracks that I was interested in. There was a bunch of tracks. There's a lot of average-sized tracks, and some of them bucks will have good racks, but I can't get excited about it. I had one on the slippery, icy going. It was crunchy. Never caught him. He made so many loops in with these does, shagging these does, that every time I'd have to loop a half-mile area.
That's my favorite term that you use.
Yeah.
Shagging.
He was cracking through there, shagging does.
Yeah. I never caught that one. Then when we got the deep snow, so I was either slipping or we got the deep snow. I was pushing snow there that was pretty near to our knees in places out there too. So, yeah, I kind of burnt my knee towards the end of it. I said, I think I've had about enough, because I'd try to, if I got going in the morning, by 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was pretty painful, when I'd work my way out. So I'm getting a little rest now, and hopefully I can put in some days in New Hampshire here and try that and see what happens. And we got the Berkshire Mountains. I want to go out and hunt them Berkshires like I did again, but that'll be later in December. So I'm trying to pace myself and not get burned out on my knee all at once here. So
as long as we don't see him on Amazon ordering tree stands.
No, he's still got it in him.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, no, I ain't to that point yet.
Can't go shagging.
Yeah.
We used to use that term when we went out chasing girls when we were young, Joe.
Oh, I guess that's why he's using it.
Never heard of it.
That was an Austin Powers term or something.
Hey, yeah. How about a shout out for Big Woody's boy, Sammy?
yeah.
Letting a Big 10 go and then shooting himself a beautiful doe. Shout out for you, Sammy.
Yeah.
Just so you know, man, we're thinking about you, and you're turning into quite a hunter. You got a few teachers around you that know a little bit about it. So,
he's quite a little hunter. That kid can shoot. He's 12, and he can shoot good. He can drive tacks, and he didn't take the shot at that nice 10 because he told Chris, he said, I only had to live a shot.
Yeah.
He didn't want to take it. And then I think it was the next day or the next time they went out, they had just a couple hours in the evening. Chris had set up a ground blind down there in Rhode Island, there where he lives. And a doe come along, and this was his first deer, and he dropped it right in his tracks, his muzzle loader.
The whole Big Woods crew's having quite a year. Well, most of them. I think Eric, Mike, Joe.
Joe, Kettle kicking me.
Yeah. But yeah, there's been some nice bucks killed this year.
Timmy got one. Timmy got one last
Number
week.
2 for him.
Yeah, he got one in Maine, 220, and then he just shot one. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday in New Hampshire, he shot one.
Logan's still hunting, right?
Yeah, Logan hasn't been able to hunt much. He's got a day here and a couple days there, and he was headed up for a week, and then his new baby got sick, and so he went up. I know he went up for Friday and Saturday, and evidently didn't do any good. And then
there's a ton of snow up there because we were going there this week.
Yeah,
Logan likes to go, and we had to cancel it out. We didn't want to get up there and get another foot of snow on top of us, and
be stranded.
Yeah, so we're moving our plans a little bit south this week.
Yeah,
hopefully Logan is too.
Yeah, then Libby shot his nice one there, and he's after a New Hampshire one. Oh, and then Bo shot that one.
Bo shot a couple nice ones.
Yeah,
yeah, he got one 228 Maine, and then he
238.
238.
Yeah,
238.
Yeah.
Geez, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Short-changing Bo. 238, and then he went over in the Adirondacks, and he shot one over there. Pretty nice 8-pointer over there.
Yep.
So I think that was his first Adirondack.
All right, Bo, go get him.
Yeah, Mark Shreen shot one in New York, and he's coming today to hunt muzzleloader in Maine.
Yep. He'll be here in a few hours. So
the guys are knocking some down, so that's good.
Fun year. Yeah, hopefully this the snow is great and everything, but we've been talking about too. Hope there's some sort of let up that we don't get our herd wiped out this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping it rains for about 3 or 4 days and knocks it down, and then freezes it so they can get back on top of the crust. It's almost like starting over. It did that. Remember about 3 years ago, it did it around Christmas. We got a lot of snow in December. I remember at my house, we had over 2 feet by Christmas, and then it rained and knocked it down and froze up, and it was a good start for them because once we got some more snow, they could go on top. So,
yeah, I'm always conflicted on it because I need a good snowmobile season too. And
when it knocks it down, when the rain knocks it down, makes a beautiful base.
Yeah, the trails are going to be in good shape. It looks like the next couple of weeks it's going to get back in the 20s for highs, and so it's going to be a good start to that too. But
yeah,
the deer, of course, here in Jackman, we have hundreds of deer that come to town in the winter, and they've really started to come to town like crazy. I know my driveway. Joe called me last night, and I answered the phone. I was kind of like wanting to get rid of him. I thought he was somebody else on the phone, and I'm watching an 8-pointer in my driveway chase a doe. So Joe, okay, Joe, well, I thought it was Eric, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You hear that, Eric? He was trying to get rid of you.
Trying to get rid of that. With Eric's used to that. But so and then this big 8's chasing a doe through my driveway. Then another big 8, bigger than that one, he jumped in on the chasing her. So I had a heck of a show right in my driveway last night. And I called my neighbor, and I said, there's a big buck chasing a doe on your lawn. He goes, yeah, there's 2 of them. He goes, and I'm watching them. He goes, as I'm taking off my vest and my orange, he goes.
Yeah. See, Wayne Lumbert shot a nice buck there with, I think he said it was 411 or something right at the end.
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't see it.
Yep.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon he got it. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you got to go to the end, right?
Right to the end. That's right.
End.
So.
The bewitching hour.
Hopefully next podcast, Mike and I will be sharing our story of an Eric.
Well, at least we know we'll have one story. We'll have Lee's story, so we'll have one.
So,
yeah, you guys got to get some sleep tonight and get on the week,
I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning. I know that, and I really am. I'm going to get out there and
have a little fresh snow, a little warmer temperature, and
it's snowing as we talk, guys. It's snowing out there now.
And that new Woodman Arms.
Yeah,
I'm anxious to go home and get that sighted in and.
Yeah, I got a sight
ready for tomorrow.
I got a sight in mine and get ready for Berkshire's muzzleloader season there. But, well, anyways, good talking today, guys. And we'll finish off Sunday doing something else like sighting in or whatever. And any of you still hunting, going muzzleloading, hunting other states, whatever you're doing, good luck to you out there and be safe. Kill a big buck and send us a photo. Till then. Good luck on the trail.
Good luck out there, everybody.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.